So what does a Stone Age trader have in common with a coder in Silicon Valley? It might sound like a strange question, but they actually share the exact same spark: entrepreneurship. Today, we're going to dive into how that ancient spark is still powering the small businesses that, when you put them all together, become this massive engine for our entire economy.
So here's the game plan. First, we'll look at that entrepreneurial spark itself. Then, we'll see how small businesses become the engine for those big ideas. We'll get real about the good and the bad of running one, check out their true economic weight, and finally, we'll take a peek at what's just around the corner. All right, let's start right at the beginning with that entrepreneurial spark. I mean, what is that fundamental human drive that makes someone look at the world and say, you know what, I can build something better? I know, it sounds like the setup to a pretty bad joke, but this question gets to the very heart of it. You've got someone thousands of years ago trading valuable obsidian stone, and then you have someone today coding an app in a coffee shop. They're worlds apart, right? So what's the common thread?
Well, that thread is entrepreneurship. And it's not just about starting a business. The key words here are readiness and uncertainties. It's about being willing to leap into the unknown, to face all the risks, for the chance of building something valuable. That core impulse is exactly the same whether you're trading stones or shipping code.
And here's the thing, it's not just one skill. It's this whole cocktail of traits. It's about spotting an opportunity that everyone else misses. It's about being resourceful when you have nothing. And maybe most important of all, it's about sheer persistence, that grit to just keep going when things get tough.
Okay, so now that we got the spark, let's talk about the engine it powers. We're going to zoom in now on the most common way entrepreneurship comes to life: the small-scale enterprise.
Now, that word small can be kind of misleading. Under the latest Indian government guidelines, a so-called small enterprise can have a turnover of up to 50 crores. So we're not just talking about tiny corner shops here. These are often very substantial businesses that are the true backbone of the economy.
And just look at what they do. I mean, it's pretty much everything. The paper plates at your last party, the local crew paving your street, the shop that fixes your phone. Chances are they're all small enterprises. They're so woven into the fabric of our daily lives that we often don't even notice them.
But of course, it's not all sunshine and roses. Not by a long shot. So let's flip the coin over and look at the tough reality of what it actually takes to run a small business, the good and the bad.
This really shows you the central tug-of-war. On one hand, small businesses are easier to start, and they create a ton of jobs. But on the other hand, because they're easier to start, you are facing absolutely brutal competition, and you usually can't get the same cost advantages as the big guys. Let's break that down a bit more.
So let's focus on the bright side first. Because these businesses rely more on people than machines, they create a massive number of jobs. This makes entrepreneurship way more accessible. And by using local talent and resources, they help spread wealth around much more evenly than a giant corporation might.
But now for the hard truths. The biggest hurdle is something called economies of scale, which is just a fancy way of saying they can't buy or produce stuff in huge volumes to get lower prices. Add in outdated tech and that cutthroat competition, and for many, just surviving day-to-day is a huge victory.
But here's the incredible thing. Despite all those struggles, when you add them all up, their collective power is, well, it's staggering. So let's zoom back out and see how all these small engines come together to form one economic powerhouse.
I love this because it shows that entrepreneurs aren't just part of economic history. They're the ones driving the revolutions. Think about it. When the steam engine was invented, who took the massive risk to build the first factories? Entrepreneurs. When the internet came along, who figured out how to get it into our homes? Entrepreneurs. At every single one of these major turning points, they led the charge.
Let's put a real number on that impact: 40%. Just let that sink in for a second. That's the share of India's total exports that comes from small-scale enterprises. A huge, massive slice of the economic pie, all thanks to these smaller players.
So you see, they don't just export goods, they build nations. They create jobs, which reduces poverty. They raise the standard of living. They develop communities far away from the big industrial cities. And they keep the entire market on its toes by constantly challenging the big, established players. So what does the future hold for all of this? Let's jump into our final section and see how things like technology and globalization are writing the next chapter for entrepreneurs everywhere.
This quote from Thomas Friedman absolutely nails it. The future isn't just global, and it's not just local, it's glocal. Think of a global idea, like ride-sharing, but then adapting it with the right kinds of vehicles and payment systems that fit perfectly in one specific city. That's the winning formula. Think global, but act local.
And these 4 trends you see here are all connected. Digital platforms give you the tools to even get started. The gig economy gives you access to a global team of talent. That global idea gives you the strategy. But that last piece is so important now. You have to play by the rules. That old gung-ho, growth-at-all-cost attitude just doesn't work anymore.
And really, that brings us to the final thought. The tools to build something, to create, to reach people all over the world, they've never been more accessible than they are right now. So the real question isn't about what's possible anymore. The question is, what are you going to do with it? What problem out there are you, right now, uniquely positioned to solve?